just, I just, I just speak my peace, keep my peace.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to the Speak My Peace podcast. As always, I'm your gracious host, Greg Lacey. Like we always do about this time, I hope this episode reaches you all in good health, good wealth, and I hope that you are taking care of yourself and your loved ones, as we know just how important that is. A good portion of this season has been conversations, surrounding the ideas and the requirements that it takes to become the absolute best version of ourselves. Making those difficult decisions that, require us to dig deep into ourselves, to become the individual that we aspire to be, sitting with the uncomfortability of, as a result of those decisions, and experiencing, growing pains as we are, going through the motions and making those transitions. Me personally, you all know that, one of my biggest transitions recently have been eating vegan. I feel like this season and last season, I've given you all, bits and pieces about my vegan transformation. Like one episode, I know I explained, what influenced me to become vegan. Another episode, I detail, what's helped me maintain and so on and so forth. So now as I record this episode, I'm about 1 year and a half into my journey, and I feel like I can finally cover it all, on one episode. So for those of you who don't know me, I have patellar tendonitis in both knees and have probably had it for most of the past decade. It really is a result of me being very active when I was younger and not properly aiding my body, simply because I just didn't understand the importance of aiding to my body while being so active. So for any of you young high school athletes out there, make sure that you are icing, stretching, resting as much as possible, because it will catch up to you. You are not Superman. And I'm a living testament of that. But basically back to me, the tendonitis I was experiencing was, I would experience sharp pain in between my patella and my tibia, the two bones that connect our knee. And, between those two bones, there's a tendon that allows for us to bend our knees and things like that. And basically mine had been grinded down to almost nothing from what was explained to me by doctors and the x-rays that I had seen. So around 2017, 2018, I don't remember the years, it had gotten worse. My tendonitis had really gotten worse. I would hoop for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And, after that, I'll still be able to deal with the pain that I experienced. But anything over the hour, it made walking very difficult, made bending my knees very difficult. And what was happening was the more I was hooping, the tendon would inflame. So I went to the doctor, I think 2018, to try to improve this. And what was recommended to me was physical therapy to try and make my knees stronger. Pause. But because I was in school at the time, I didn't end up, doing it because the appointments were way too frequent and it conflicted with my school scheduling. So I just ended up dealing with the pain for that time being. During that time, I hooped a little less, which was difficult, especially during that time living in New York. Now, I know what y'all thinking. What the hell this got to do with being vegan? Just be patient. I'm going to walk y'all through it. Okay, so fast forward 3 years. Within those 3 years that I'm fast forwarding, I'm really not hooping as much. Really because I moved from coast to coast again, and then the P word happened, and with the P word happened, to put a hold on things. So gyms were closed, courts were closed, and so I just wasn't hooping as much. So by 2021, things are starting to open back up when I found somewhere where runs that happen frequently. So now I'm hooping again, and I'm hooping maybe like 3 times a week for a couple hours. Now, because I haven't been hooping as frequently prior to that, I forgot about how bad that pain was, how unbearable it gets. So towards the end of 2021, I'm fully aware that, I either have to stop hooping or I have to find a way to treat it. So I'll look into physical therapy again, and I actually go as far as scheduling a consultation, because at this point, I want to continue hooping as long as I'm able to walk. Again, because we were 1 year into the P word, appointments and things like that require a long wait time. So I schedule my consultation, and this consultation, the earliest availability is a month out, if I remember correctly. And this is only a consultation, it's not even an actual appointment. So if you all remember, last season I detailed that, I in great length that I have battles with anxiety. So of course, me being anxious, me being that anxious person that I am, I started to look into alternative options because, like, where can I get a sooner appointment? Even if it's a week out, even if it's 2 weeks out, anything sooner than a month is better than a month because nobody want to wait around that long to treat this. I want to continue to hoop again. Now, maybe the third week of me waiting, I'm a week away from my appointment, I come across this article where Neo, the singer, is talking about how long he's been vegan and how going vegan reversed his tendonitis. And immediately my eyes widened. This piqued my interest because, I'm on the same type of effects. In this article, he talks about how he would rehearse for his shows and how he could barely bend his knees or walk after rehearsal because of the pain he endured from his routines that he's practicing, and how that pain became so unbearable he had to find a cure. And this was something that was very familiar to me. So I guess a friend of his recommended that he transition to a plant-based diet because it could reverse the effects of his tendonitis. He did so, and after doing that, 2 weeks after being vegan, his tendonitis had completely cleared up. And that testimony alone was enough for me to at least try eating vegan because it saved me money. I'm a frugal person, so why not? Now, I'm not a person who makes New Year resolutions. I'm actually very opposed to it because I feel like New Year resolutions and the thinking behind it kind of enables people to be lazy, and I don't like that lazy. But I made one exception in 2021. Around the time I read Neo's article, it had to have been like October or early November. And selfishly, I didn't want to give up all the good food that was on horizon for the holidays. So I told myself, pig out these next couple of months. And then January 1st, we're trying vegan for at least 4 weeks to see if, I see any changes in my knee pain and in my health overall. And, when you eat vegan, people, they're really interested in what you're doing to substitute your normal, non-vegan meals. And for me, that transition wasn't that difficult. I will say, despite being vegan, one thing that I have not given up are eggs. I love animals. And my reasoning for eating vegan is not in opposition to animal cruelty, even though I love animals. It's literally just to improve my health and improve my needs. That's why a lot of times I'm hesitant to even say that I'm vegan, because being vegan is a lifestyle and one I don't consciously adhere to. But I do try my best to note that I eat vegan rather than identifying as a vegan. Anyways, back to eggs. I continue to eat eggs because, one, the egg alternatives that I've tried, there are not my favorite, and I've tried many of them. For two, eggs are the one dairy product that I do not believe to be as harmful as the rest of the dairy product. I'm not saying that they aren't harmful, but they're not as harmful to me. So that breakfast transition was pretty simple because it didn't require any adjustments. My typical breakfast consisted of eggs, fruit, juice, and some form of protein. So for the protein substitutes, I lean heavily onto mushrooms. I will mix them into my scrambles a lot. Sometimes I turn to vegan pork alternatives, whether that's bacon or sausage, or I just include oatmeal in my meal. So for breakfast, there wasn't any major adjustments. I was, on a regular schedule of programming. But because I had been meal prepping for nearly 5 years at the point, my body was trained to eat when and what I need, opposed to just eating to eat. So because of this, I don't really get hungry at lunch. I eat a decent breakfast, I eat a decent dinner, and then I kind of just snack for lunch. So for the past 5 years, religiously, I've just relied on eating some form of nuts, whether those are cashews or pistachios, whatever the case may be. And then I would just pair them with a smoothie, and that will hold me over until dinner. So because I already eat a rather organic lunch, there weren't any adjustments for lunch either. There wasn't no adjustments needed on my end because it was already vegan, basically. So I just had to make sure I stayed away from, the dairy for my smoothies, which was fairly easy when I'm making it, when I'm out and about and I go to like a smoothie shop, make sure that, they don't include milk or yogurt or whatever things that, smoothie places usually add in that were vegan. Now, to dinner, for the first 3 weeks, dinner was fairly easy because I was stocking up on vegan TV dinners. If you all remember, Season 5 of the Speak on Peace podcast returned on January 20th. So from the ending of December through January, a lot of my idle time was occupied with planning for that amazing season that I gave y'all. Especially after I was signed off work, I dedicate 90% of my time to the podcast. And I was really just locked in. I didn't want to think about even taking an hour out of my time doing anything else every day And I didn't want to, spend that time trying to perfect vegan meals because it was going to take a lot of learning. So I did it, and I really relied heavily on those frozen meals, and they aided me in that. Now, during this time with that experimenting with eating vegan, I'm still very active, weightlifting, running, hooping, wherever the case may be. 3 weeks into the years, I go on a mini weekend getaway, and that was really my first week of rest in the new year. And so as I'm resting, I realized, like, damn, now that we're 3 weeks into the year and I haven't used ice packs nor heating pads or anything on my knees all year, while realizing that, it's immediately brought to my attention that I haven't experienced any pain either. On top of that, I just begin to survey the lay of the land. My skin is a little clearer than it's ever been. I think at that point I was like 25 pounds lighter than I was exactly 4 weeks ago. It's a tad bit bouncier, when I'm hooping. Yeah, I'm even happier. And then it hit me like, oh, this is really working. This is what Neil was talking about when he said his diet cured his tendonitis. And my diet literally cured that unbearable pain that I thought I'd live the rest of my life with. I stopped consuming the things that are correlated to the flare-ups that I kept experiencing, and that have been linked to diabetes and other cancerous diseases, and my body is better for that. I come on this podcast and I come here to tell y'all that, I tell y'all a lot that our bodies and our minds are like machines. What we consume can essentially make or break us. And so we have to be mindful of those things. We have to be mindful of the things we consume because it affects us one way or another. Even if you don't see it immediately, essentially you're going to see it sometime down the line. And I'm not going to front. This entire process mentally was easier than it was physically. What I mean by that is the only reason why I'm able to carry through with eating this way is because I've seen the benefits of it, because I've seen the improvements in my knees, because I've seen the benefits of it's easier to constantly remind myself why I'm doing it. Why I'm maintaining this type of diet is conducive to my all-around greater well-being. Being that I have been on this pursuit of the greatest version of myself. But with all that being said, I kind of wear myself out a lot with the things that I'm eating. Like, I wasn't one to completely do away with vegetables. Like, I eat vegetables, but there are two things that I eat regularly that I'll never in a million years saw myself eating. And those are onions and those are mushrooms. And that's ever. I never saw myself eating these things. Growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, even lived with them in high school. And my grandmother, she cooked a lot. And occasionally she will cook, regular meals, and she will cook healthy meals for herself. And I don't remember if they were vegan or if they were vegetarian, but at least I know, there were a lot of vegetables in those meals she would cook. And the sight and smell of those meals, it just didn't make sense to me. Like, why are you eating that many vegetables? Even the meals she would prepare for me, mushrooms or onions were in a recipe, she had chopped them finely so that I wouldn't be able to pick them out of the meal because she knew that I didn't like it. But I still pick them out the meal, especially, once I eat it and I taste one of them, I'm pulling it, not spilling it out, but I'm pulling it. But it's crazy to fast forward now, I'm preparing my favorite vegan meals, inclusive of onions and mushrooms or whatever vegetables it took me 30 years to eat. It's such a crazy transition. A lot of you have been listening to this podcast long enough to know that, I'll never use my platform to try and sway y'all one way or another. To each his or her own. I emphasize the my piece of this podcast part a lot because I feel that it's more important to encourage y'all, encourage people to speak their truths, to tear their point of views, to recant their experiences. That's why I started this podcast for myself. I feel like there's more power in uplifting than there is in preaching. But I'd be remiss if I was gatekeeping information from y'all. And, you just never know. This episode could be the game changer for someone. The same game changer that Neil article was for me, it could be for them. And personally, I'm not a health nut by any means, so I would never come on here and tell y'all to do this or do that to become healthy. But because I care about y'all, I appreciate that y'all listen to the podcast. I do encourage y'all to take control of your health. We as Black folks, we deal with so many health ailments generationally because of our lack of taking care of our health. And it's time that we begin to right those ships. Breaking generational curses are not exclusive to breaking financial or mental curses. We had to be as active in attacking the improvements of our health of our families so that we can free those younger generations from those health issues that has plagued, Black families for decades due to the negligence of not taking care of our health. And I'm not saying become a vegan, improving your health can be whatever makes you happy, whatever makes sense to you. That could be whether that means, just eating cleaner, whether that just means, becoming more active, whether that means drinking more water, whether that means cutting fast food out of your diet, whether that means, stop consuming alcohol or stop doing drugs. Whatever eating healthy and improving your health means to you, do that. It could mean, shifting to a vegan or a vegetarian diet or lifestyle. Whatever breaking those generational curses mean to you, do that. Because the objective is to preserve our precious Black lives for as long as humanly possible. And deteriorating your health is counterproductive to that mission. I start off every single episode with encouraging y'all to take care of ourselves because that is important. I'd be remiss if I didn't remind y'all that every week. And taking care of ourselves means taking care of our health. So as we get out of here, I do want to close out by encouraging you all to be the person to make that shift in your family, in your community, wherever the case may be, to encourage people to live an active and more healthier lifestyle, to preserve our lives and extend our lives as much as possible. Better health, greater health is a direct correlation to longevity. And, a lot of people, we strive for that. We strive to be physically here as long as possible. I know for me personally, I try my best to lead by example, to show people around me that, there are benefits from being active. There are benefits from eating healthy. There are benefits from eating cleaner. For me, my motivation is always, my nieces and nephews. They are the pride and joy of my life, and I want to be here. I want to be able to experience as much of their life as possible so that I can continue to give them game as they grow older, as they mature and different things like that, and share my experiences with them so that they don't make the mistakes that I make. Now, me eating healthier, me being more active is not going to, ensure that I live a healthier lifestyle, but it's definitely not going to deteriorate my health. It's not going to shorten my life. So why not, do as much as possible to extend that longevity? And so that's literally the motivation behind why I choose to be more active. Aside from my personal benefits, it's just that I want to overextend this as much as possible. And so I encourage you all to do the same. Be that change in your family. If you have to lead by example, let people see, the benefits of you making certain transitions. Again, whether that's eating healthier, whether that's giving up drugs, or whether that's giving up alcohol, whether that's eating cleaner, drinking a gallon of water a day, whatever the case may be. Show people that there are benefits from living this way. Because a lot of time in the Black community, we are hesitant or we refuse to make those shifts and make those changes because everyone else around us is either the same as we are either, and is normalized, in our community. And aside from that, when you don't see someone doing something, when you don't see the benefits of it physically, you tend to be hesitant in making those transitions. So be that, guidance, be that example for the people around you. As we get out of here, what to watch for this week, we're going to go with What the Health. It's on Netflix. I personally didn't watch it prior to transitioning to vegan. But since I've been vegan, it's been a documentary that's been recommended to me over and over again. And so honestly, when I was preparing for this episode, I did watch that documentary. It's a really good documentary. So once again, but what to watch for this week is What the Health and the WNBA. WNBA is coming back. So I got two what to watch this week. What the Health and the WNBA game. That's the Speak My Peace podcast for this week. I'm out.